Assalamu alaikum dear students, welcome to the course of sports psychology. I am here your course instructor Nazia Yaqub. Our today's topic is research in sports psychology. The main topics that we will learn from today's lecture include what is research in sports psychology, then methods used in sports and exercise psychology, areas of research undertaken by sports psychologists. Why are non-athlete important in sports psychology research? Sports Research and Innovation Initiative. Contribution of international institutes in sports psychology research that will include Sports Psychology Research Lab and Center for Sports Psychology and Athlete Mental Health. At the end, we will see different research journals in sports research. What is research in sports psychology? Sports psychology researchers study exercise and health topics in relation to non-athlete. For example, topics include the impact of exercise on mental health, how to improve compliance to an exercise program, the use of music for motivation during exercise. All these are the topics studied from different sports psychologists in the sports psychology field. Exercise psychology and sports psychology are the synonymous names for the same field. Now, methods used in sports and exercise psychology. There are 6 research methods used in sports and exercise psychology. The first one is physiological measures. We have studied in subjective methods of measuring human activity and objective methods of measuring human activity. In objective methods of measuring human activity, we have learned a few methods that include observation of blood samples. For example, uh, we have seen the ECG method, PPG method. All these were the examples of physiological measures. But other than these, different other methods also used that include the sample of blood and blood concentration, white blood cell counts, and red blood cell counts assessed in the lab. The next will be the biomechanical measures. How biomechanical measures used for assessment of sports psychological activities and human exercises, how they impact in the physical fitness of the athlete. All these are the part of today's lecture, and we will see how biomechanical factors include in the uh, measurement of human activity and how it plays a role in the research in sports psychology field. The next method is content analysis. Content analysis is basically how an athlete is performing in a field or in a practice playground. The main observational analysis of his participation is assessed here in this category. The next is questionnaire method. We have seen in subjective methods of measuring human activity, questionnaire method or self-report measure method. The next is interviews. We asked from face to face from the athletes about a number of conditions or number of states and observe their responses on the given questions that we asked from them about their physical activity or participation in the games. The next is observation method. This is also studied deeply in the measurement of human subjective measurements of human activity lecture. The first two are the most commonly used by the sports medicine practitioners and exercise specialists. They are less common in sports psychology, but sports psychology research also use these methods with combination of sports medicine. Let's see how physiological measures are used for the assessment of um, psychological research, and how the biomechanical measures are used. Let's see physiological measures first, then we will see the biomechanical measures.
This is the exercise physiology lab where the students are doing exercise on the bike, measuring things like vital signs, different byproducts in the blood that are produced during exercise, and seeing how that's changing in different exercise conditions with different people. This is a great opportunity for the students to apply what they've learned in lecture and different classes in a fun environment.
Unfortunately, BMI, which is what most people use, only gives a rough estimate of whether or not you're really overweight or obese because people have different body types. We use a technique called the bod pod where we actually displace air to determine body density. And from your body density, we can fairly accurately determine what percentage of your body is fat.
The reason we have you wear compression tights or a Speedo swimsuit is we don't want any air trapped in garments. Mass is important to the overall computation, so this is an important step. What I'm going to have you do is put a swim cap on, and that's, again, it's the same thing as the shorts. It's because your hair traps air around it. It just helps compress everything down so we're getting a more accurate volume. That's good. Mm-hmm. I'll have you sit exactly like this. I'm going to close the door. Takes about 50 seconds. Try not to move because the more you move, the more the air will fluctuate in there.
Okay.
We'll do 2 of those, and then if those are in agreement, we'll do a third with the hose.
Okay.
Okay? The first 2 measurements are our volume measurements, so we're strictly measuring the amount of air he displaces in the bod pod. The third measure will be to measure the air that moves in and out of his lungs as he's breathing, so we can subtract that out of his volume. Once we get the volume and we have his body weight, we can calculate body density. Once you have body density, then we can put that into prediction equations for percent fat, and that's based on gender, age, and different race. The bod pod we can use in both the pediatric population, and we can go up to about 450 pounds. All right, are you doing okay?
Doing great.
Not too strenuous, huh?
No.
Instructions from the computer will be, you'll see a histogram to breathe in, breathe out. It's just having you breathe your normal breathing pattern. And that's all there is to it.
I'm Cameron, and today I'll be speaking to you about biomechanics in sports. Sports and science are often considered very different activities. In mainstream media, science users, also known as nerds, are rarely interested in or even good at sports. Science in its essence is the pursuit of understanding through observation, which begs the question, can we understand the human movement that is involved in sports and exercise through observation alone? And the answer is yes, with biomechanics. With biomechanics, we can help athletes prevent injury, as well as improve performances. If we can understand the positions and the movements that result in injury, then we can help athletes avoid these particular positions. And if we can optimize the techniques used in a particular sporting event, then we can help athletes have greater success in their chosen field of play. But before we can achieve either of these 2 goals, we first need to establish what human movement is made up of. Human movement is comprised of motion and forces. Motion can either be linear, which is movement along a particular path, or angular, which is movement around a fixed point. However, when we move, it's often a combination of both linear and angular motion. If you were to jump forwards, your body would follow a particular path as you flow through the air. But various parts of your body would actually be rotating in order to maintain your balance while you were airborne. Whenever we want to generate movement, we first have to generate forces in our muscles that's going to propel us in certain directions. And when we include the equipment that's often used in sports, this adds another layer of complexity. as we now need to account for the forces of this equipment on the surrounding environment. So if we seek a way to observe and analyze human movement, we need methods that they're going to allow us to visualize and quantify motion and forces. And we're able to do this with a motion analysis lab. With a motion analysis lab, we can use high-tech cameras that can visualize a person in 3D space. Using these cameras, we can measure the angles and positions that a person moves through as they complete a specific task. If the motion analysis lab has force plates or a force treadmill, now we are able to get the ground reaction force of the individual as they complete the task. In this video, you see arrows shooting up off the ground. This is the ground reaction force of the individual as they complete the sprint. Sports and exercise are always evolving. Athletes and people are always striving for new and better ways to improve and get better in their specific sporting events. But nowhere is the effect of physics and biomechanics more evident than in the event of the high jump. Athletes used to use a variety of techniques to get over the bar, most popular of which was the straddle technique that you see here. It wasn't until 1968 that Richard Fosbury introduced his technique, the Fosbury flop, in which the athlete would actually go over the bar backwards. The genius of the Fosbury flop is not that the athlete would go over backwards, but the fact that as the athlete soared over the bar, their center of gravity actually passed below it. When trying to get over an obstacle, you usually have to translate your center of gravity to a point at or higher than the obstacle you're trying to get over. And this is the case for every other high jump technique except the Fosbury flop. Thus, by using the Fosbury flop, Richard Fosbury was actually using less energy than his competitors, as he had to translate his center of gravity to a lower point. Using biomechanics, we can help athletes optimize the techniques used in their sporting events, like the Fosbury flop and the high jump. Or, using biomechanics, we can analyze the training regimes or the equipment of athletes to help them have a greater success on their field of play. For these two reasons, biomechanics is a major player in sports and exercise.
And the next topic is areas of research undertaken by sports psychologists. What are the areas for research most sports psychologists are taking and they are in the field nowadays? The first one is identification, development, and execution of the mental and emotional knowledge, skills, and abilities required for excellence in athlete domains. What kind of mental and emotional knowledge is required for the athletic domain, and what kind of skills are required, and what kind of abilities are required for elite athletes and for excellence in the field. Understanding, diagnosis, and preventing of the psychological, cognitive, emotional, behavioral, and psychophysiological inhibitors of consistent, excellent performance. The second area that is being observed is what are the main issues being studied, what are the main inhibitors in the good performance of athletes, and those inhibitors may belong from the psychological factors, cognitive factors, emotional and behavioral and psychophysiological factors. The next is improvement of athletic extent to facilitate more efficient development, consistent execution, and positive experiences in athletes. Now, team dynamics and coaching as a continuation of areas being studied by the sports psychologist. Sports psychology researchers examine not only individual factors in athletic performance but also what makes a team successful. They will not only study the individual athlete but they also study the team members or team dynamics, how team members collectively collaborate and can perform well in the field. How an excellent team can be made and how a coach can enhance the performance of that team with the help of psychological techniques is the main interest area of sports psychologists. At a team level, researchers are interested to examine cohesion in both a social and task oriented sense and the impact of those factors on performance. For example, does a team that meshes well socially perform better in competition? Research has also focused on identifying team building strategies that lead to success. The next area is being focused by the sports psychologist is elite performance. Sports psychologists seek to understand what sets elite athletes apart as well as how they cope with the pressure and stress of a competitive lifestyle. Their personal life and their professional life and how they cope with different stressors faced by both areas of their life and how they are managing their life keeping in view the above said stressors and obstacles and how they are performing well in their field. All these are the main core areas being studied by sports psychologists. Especially researchers have studied how elite athletes manage transitions such as during the Olympics, how they maintain balance between life and athletics, and what they do to prepare for competitions. Additional topics include the importance of mental toughness and the right motivational climate for teams. These are also main focus of the psychological assessment and psychological research. Mental toughness is a technique to boost up the performance of athletes, and this is the main focus of sports psychology researchers to see its effectiveness and how they contribute in the success of an athlete. The next is why are non-athlete important in sports psychology? When we are studying sports psychological concepts or constructs or techniques, different techniques we have learned in sports psychology, there is an urgent need to assess both the athlete and non-athlete in order to see the exact comparison between them. Sports psychology researchers study exercise and health topics in relation to non-athlete. For example, topics include the impact of exercise on mental health, how to improve compliance to an exercise program, and the use of music for motivation during exercise. Researchers have also investigated the impact of specific exercise program on health and the management of specific conditions such as fibromyalgia, a disorder characterized by widespread musculoskeletal pain and accompanied by fatigue, sleep, memory, and mood issues. Researchers are not only focusing on the mental assessment or the techniques to boost their athletes' mental health, but they are also assessing different physiological factors, physiological diseases and disorders in athletes and non-athlete, along with psychological factors. Now, sports research and innovation, an initiative. Our website is introduced in the field of sports psychology, where a large number of sports psychological researchers are there, and you can collaborate with them if you want to work on sports psychology research. With the mental game being such a large part of sports and performance, there has been a recent push to make sports psychology a more widespread facet of the game, as well as a surge in teams that have equipped themselves with experts who can work with their athletes and performers. Research in this area is very widespread and includes substance abuse in athlete population, different mental health issues in athlete populations, methods for improving performance, and team dynamics. Here are the leading researchers in sports psychology who are working in their different institutes. You can see the last name of the author, the first name, title with which he or she is working in their institute, and then department and school or college reference from where they belong to, their Google Scholar link, and their page link, and at the end there will be email address in the link if you want to do contact for the sports psychology research. Now, sports psychology research lab. This is a part of start. This part is being started by an institution, McGill University. McGill University has introduced training leaders of tomorrow through excellence in teaching, research, and service. Their sports psychology research lab is working for sports psychological research, and this lab is focused on theoretical and applied research within sports. Their primary goal is to help athletes and coaches achieve personal development and performance success. Current theory-based research include coaching, team building, leadership, and the effects of concession, athlete rehabilitation, and performance. From an applied perspective, we are providing mental skill training, for example, anxiety, concentration, confidence, focus skill for high performance athlete in their pursuit of podium performance at the Olympic Games and other international competitions. The next is the Center for Sports Psychology and Athlete Mental Health. This center is from the University of North Texas. The University of North Texas Center for Sports Psychology and Athlete Mental Health faculty and graduate students maintain active research programs. The main areas of research by center staff include physical and psychological health of adolescents, eating disorders and body image, psychological antecedents and consequences of athlete injury, influences of parents, peers, and coaches in youth sport, and the published research work include impact of COVID-19 on college students, athletes, health, performance, and psychological well-being. And this publication released on July 8, 2020. Now, research journals in sports. There are different lists we will see in the field of sports psychology. First of all, we will see sports psychology journals. The first one is Journal of Applied Psychology, Journal of Sports and Exercise Psychology, Behavior Research Methods, Psychology of Sports and Exercise, Journal of Clinical Psychology, Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology, Applied Psychology International Review, Journal of Applied Sports Psychology, The Sports Psychologist, Sociology of Sports Journal, International Journal of Sports Psychology. Other than these journals, there are a large number of journals such as Applied Physiology. We can see American Journal of Physiology under this heading. Journal dealing with sports medicine journals. They are American Journal of Sports Medicine and Sports Medicine alone. Sports Nutrition Journals, International Journal of Sports Nutrition and Exercise Metabolism. Sports Biomechanic Journals, Journal of Electromyography and Kinesiology. All these are the kinds of different journals being focused in sports. Hope so. You have learned a lot of things in the research in sports psychology. Other than these, different exercise and kinesiology departments and fitness departments, physical education departments are focusing on research. If you have any queries or feedback about today's lecture, you may contact on the given email address. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.